I really hate going over news that happened while I was away, like while I wasn't streaming, because when I catch back up with it, I kind of feel like I'm repeating stuff that everyone already knows. It makes me feel like I can't really cover things as they happen, but this is like the canary. I don't want to say it's the canary in the coal mine because the canary in the coal mine is long dead. This goes beyond that. It is so bad. It's impossible to really describe it. I guess normally I tend to overstate things. I like to yap. I talk a lot. I explain things multiple times for emphasis. It's just how I talk. I do it in real life too with my close personal friends. I'm going to try to be a little bit more curt here because there is genuinely so much to cover. I'm going to cover this in as direct a manner as possible, and for that I will begin by literally reading a Wikipedia summary. I know it's a difficult job. People are like, how do you keep all this information in your head? Well, folks, sometimes you get a little help, okay? The hardest job in the world. The detention of Mahmud Khalil. Mahmud Khalil, a student activist and negotiator in the 2024 Columbia University pro-Palestinian campus occupations, was arrested by ICE agents at his home on March 8th, 2025. The agents were acting on orders from the State Department. So keep that in mind. ICE is under, for a second, yeah, I know, I thought it was DHS, but then I second guessed myself, which is honestly just as embarrassing as not knowing it to begin with. The point being, they were getting orders from the State Department. Now you can consider what that means, what the implications of that are. Like, think about it for a second, like there you have one administrative branch and then another, and then the State Department directly intervenes. That's a very, very targeted hit. To revoke Khalil's student visa. When the agents were informed that Khalil, of Palestinian and Syrian nationality and Algerian citizenship, was a lawful permanent resident of the U.S. with a green card, the agents said they were revoking that instead. They apparently didn't know he had a green card, and when they found that he did, they said they were revoking that instead. They don't have the legal authority to do that. They did it anyway. The detention is the first publicly known deportation effort related to pro-Palestine activism under President Donald Trump, who has threatened to punish students and others who he believes support Hamas or promote anti-Semitism. I'm just gonna lay this flatly, okay? Many people will say that Israel controls the U.S. In reality, the same group of people control both America and Israel, and it's a conglomerate, a union of interests of the military and corporate power. It's literally just the MIC. It's as simple as can be. Don't Pepe post. I'm being serious. This is a very, very, very clear line. It's just the same oligarchs. Nobody gives a shit. If anyone, because there are people who will say Israel controls the U.S. Okay, then why is this administration, which will break its knees falling to them to worship the Israeli power, why then are so many of them open anti-Semites? Does that strike you as a particularly good strategy for building Jewish power? Empower Israel via a group of Nazi fascists in the United States? Be serious. It's the military-industrial complex. We did this with a dozen countries over the course of the Cold War. More than a dozen. Now we're doing it here. It's happened before. It's not new. We did this during the Iraq War and the Vietnam protests. With that being said, what we're talking about here is a direct hit on a Colombian student, a legal resident, not just somebody on a student visa. Mahmoud Khalil's presence here in the United States, his residency, is not hinging on him being a student at Columbia. He is a student at Columbia and an immigrant, but he has a green card. For those of you who don't know the difference, if he got fired from Columbia, if he got expelled from Columbia, he would still be a legal resident of the United States. Whereas somebody on a student visa, if they got expelled, would then have to leave the United States. The State Department put a hit out on him. ICE, not knowing what he had, went there to deport him. And when they realized he didn't have a student visa, they went ahead with it anyway. Now, following this arrest, there has been an absolutely enormous outroar from Colombian students and activists across the country because the implications of this are clear, right? They're trying to deport someone who they have no legal right to deport. This isn't an undocumented immigrant. This is somebody with a green card. If they can deport somebody with a green card, they can do whatever they want. Now, there has been a massive uproar. And yes, Zionist groups have been cheering this on because Zionists are fascists and they want to see the censorship and disempowering of people who oppose their colonial project. None of this is new. But what is particularly insane is that the Trump administration has completely fallen on the sword on this one. Look at this. A White House official told the Free Press the basis for targeting Khalil is being used as a blueprint for investigations against other students. Khalil is a, quote, threat to the foreign policy and national security interests of the U.S., said the official, noting that this calculation was the driving force behind the arrest. Quote, the allegation here is not that he was breaking the law. So that's it then. An open admission. There's absolutely no pretense of illegality. They're just admitting it. It is literally just your political enemy. We can get rid of you. It's not a joke. It's here. It's happening. It's happening right now. And the entire administration has been defending it. Not trying to pave it over. Not trying to, suppress news about it or deny that it's happening. Defending it. This is Tom Homan, czar of the border.
It directly contradicts the United States foreign policy. That's the Secretary
I'm sorry about the audio.
of State. That's in charge of the Secretary of State. We consider a national security threat. When you're on campus, they say, and I hear freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Can you stay in a movie theater and yell fire? Can you slander somebody verbally? Free speech has limitations, but
We consider him a national security threat. Everyone says freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. There are limits to freedom of speech. Like protesting Israel. Literally. That's it. Just flatly. That's it. That's the statement, the official statement from the administration. They are not trying to paint it over. They're trying to rally everyone on this point. Here's the official White House Twitter account. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. I hope you know this. Mahmud was not a terrorist sympathizer. He was just a pro-Palestinian activist. Obviously. Yeah, shalom. I know. Shalom. Here's Mike Johnson.
Crying out loud. Yeah.
In your estimation, what crime did Mahmud Khalil commit to warrant his arrest, detention, and the potential revocation of his green card?
Let me tell you something. I went face down the angry mob at Columbia at the height of that stuff. When the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters were there. I'm telling you, this is my own observation, not something I read in a newspaper. It was dangerous. I met with Jewish students before we went to campus who were hauled away off campus because they were instructed by the administration not to come to class, which they paid for fear of their physical safety.
I'm just going to save you the time of listening to Mike Johnson for 2 minutes. He doesn't answer the question. The administration isn't even pretending Mahmud Khalil committed a crime. The question was very specific. What crime did he commit to warrant his arrest? He goes on to say, to imply that Mahmud Khalil is a terrorist who's threatening Jewish classmates, none of which has happened. There's been no allegation of that. And even if there was, I would assume it's a lie. Here's another good one. As more agents of the administration attempt to haphazardly justify what's going on.
I think the question here is about whether speech can result in people's legal rights being taken away.
He's a virulent anti-Semite. He came here on a student visa.
He has a green card. He is not a virulent anti-Semite either, at least not to my knowledge.
He's paid by a terrorist organization.
He is not paid by a terrorist organization. This is defamatory, by the way, in a fair country, though it would never work right now. This is already lawsuit territory.
Excuse me.
That beheads babies.
What evidence do you have?
That beheads babies.
Wait.
I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear.
I have evidence.
You're alleging that he's paid by
He's a
who?
paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him.
Maybe you should have, because it really makes it seem like you're just lying and making up. Yeah, I have proof. Well, I don't have proof, but I have proof, but I don't even know what point I'm saying I have proof for.
But
What's
he's
the
being
evidence?
paid by.
Hang on.
He's being
That's
paid.
a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you said
I
you
just
had
really
evidence.
wanna
Who is
know.
he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American, that are engaged in nefarious
Name them.
activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to
Well,
give
then don't
me.
come on national TV and say on things. But don't come on national
Do
TV.
you know who
and
he's
say-
being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not
Are you
alleging
okay?
that he's
Are
being
you
paid.
okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's
Are you
being
okay?
paid.
So I feel like this should be obvious to anyone who's watched my content for long enough, but you all need to understand, I'm sure you know this, he's lying, and he knows that he's lying. He knows that Mahmud was just a student protester, and that the only reason he was targeted was because he was considered an enemy of the state. Not really even an enemy of the state, but an enemy of the state's national interest in defending the economic opportunities posed by the continual brutalization of the Palestinian people. You're an enemy of the state of Israel, essentially. But our support for Israel is contingent upon the political disposition of the American public, right? Like if 0% of America liked Israel, it'd be pretty difficult for politicians to keep supporting Israel. That's why both Democrats and Republicans have for decades now disingenuously fronted Israel's interests as a way of keeping people on board. Now we're reaching the final stage of that. They are just straight up disappearing people. And by the way, I'm not using disappearing here euphemistically. Mahmud Khalil, to my understanding, has been denied the ability to see his lawyer, or at least he was for a time. Let me see if that is updated. Let's just read this. Around 8:30 p.m. on March 8th, Khalil was taken by multiple plainclothes officers from his apartment in Columbia University housing. Khalil's wife recalled that when they were returning home from an iftar dinner, an ICE officer followed them into their building and asked if her husband was Mahmud Khalil, which he confirmed. The officer then told Khalil to come with them and asked her to give them the keys to the apartment, which she refused to do. The officer told her they would arrest her too. Just love ICE. Love ICE. We'll arrest you if you don't give us your house keys. Yeah, she's 8 months pregnant. They handcuffed Mahmud and forced him into an unmarked car. Sorry, I can't talk. A Columbia spokesperson declined to say whether before the arrest the university received a warrant for the ICE agents to access property the university owned. Columbia University is complicit in this, by the way, for a wider set of reasons. The spokesperson also declined to comment on the arrest. Khalil was taken into custody in the presence of his wife, a U.S. citizen. He was able to call his lawyer, Amy Greer, from the building's lobby. She spoke over the phone with one of the ICE agents, who told her they were acting on State Department orders to revoke Khalil's student visa. Greer said that when she informed the agent Khalil was a permanent resident of the U.S. in possession of a green card, the agent responded they would revoke the green card instead. When Greer said she needed to see a warrant before Khalil could be detained, the agent hung up. As of March 9th, Greer was uncertain of Khalil's whereabouts, noting the possibility he could be as far away as Louisiana. Khalil's pregnant wife, who sought to visit him at a detention center in New Jersey, was informed he was not there. On March 10th, according to the ICE inmate locator website, Khalil appeared to be in LaSalle Detention Center in Louisiana. By the way, for reasons we're about to talk about, you shouldn't trust the ICE inmate locator website. Who knows if that's true? So he's literally gone? Well, I'll ask chat, because a lot of this has happened recently, and I was away in New York for a good portion of it, coincidentally enough. Has there been any update? Do we have more definite information on his whereabouts? No, we don't know. That's great. Yes, we do here. Mahmud Khalil speaks to lawyers after New York hearing. Judge extends block on deportation. A federal judge has extended an order blocking the deportation of Mahmud Khalil, U.S. permanent resident. Well, that's nice. Finally able to speak privately with his legal team Wednesday following an order by the New York court to the Department of Homeland Security. Well, that's nice. This is legit rivaling what Navalny went through before finally getting killed by Putin. Y'all are cooked? Yeah, it seems like it. Serious question, is his life legitimately in danger? They could kill him easily and nothing would be done about it. What are you going to do? Protest? There are no laws anymore. Like literally, there are no laws. Just a slow expansion of power from the executive branch. The State Department, ICE, they're both the executive branch. People have been protesting robustly. And that's good. Everyone should know this guy's name. Do you want to see what Republicans are saying about the protesters?
Of education. We have K through 12 and we have higher ed. We've got to treat both of them different. But when it comes to protesters, we got to make sure we treat all of them the same. Send them to jail. Free speech is great, but hate Free speech is not what we need in these universities, and they don't need to be doing things that they're preaching from Hamas about anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism. So that's like pretty unambiguous, right? By the way, have you ever seen Republicans back the idea that hate speech should get you arrested before, ever in your entire life? In any of the Proud Boy, Nazi marches, 3%ers, alt-right, whatever the f***, have you ever seen that? Only for glorious Israel. To find out who rules you, find out who you're not allowed to criticize. The frustrating thing is that's not a Voltaire quote. That quote is from a pedophilic neo-Nazi. What's especially frustrating is that the GOP is actually making it correct in this instance. It's so f***ed up. It's a quote from a Nazi, but it's like, yeah, that's literally what is happening at this moment. Though again, it should be clear, of course. Israel doesn't control the United States. The same group of oligarchs control both countries. Israel is just the current in a long line of colonial projects, fascist projects that the United States has backed in an effort to supplement the transfer of public wealth through taxes to private companies, through no-bid government contracts, Halliburton, Dick Cheney, Iraq War, etc., etc. When they say the Iraq War cost us $10 trillion or whatever what does that mean? Did we just burn a pile of $10 trillion? No. That money went somewhere. And it's pretty easy to see where. Likewise with Israel. Where does the money go? It's not a secret, right? Well, anyway, so I'm now up on this, and we'll cover it as it develops. But this is far from the only story. They deported a U.S. citizen because his parents were undocumented. They said they were going to do this. Tom Homan said he was going to do this. Here they are doing it. He's recovering from brain cancer. They deported him to Mexico, a U.S. citizen. This is in line with the administration's goal to revoke birthright citizenship, of course. Wasn't it a child? Yes, it says child here, and also I said child. So that's the information. There you go. So there's that. When it comes to the disappearing of people via ICE, there are two prominent examples. A German tattoo artist came to the U.S. for a 3-week trip. She's now been in ICE detention for over a month. Just chilling. Tried to enter the U.S. from Mexico through the San Diego border. Has been in ICE detention for over a month, according to a friend who witnessed her being detained. The San Yistro Port of Entry Immigration Authorities took Vaush into custody. What a name. They took her right in front of me as we were walking over. Lofing, a clothing designer based in LA, told CNN. 2 hours passed, and then she called me and said, "Hey, I'm going to get deported back to Germany. I'll call you from Germany in a couple of days." The call was on January 25th. Vaush has been in detention ever since. Half a month passed when she originally hoped to leave the U.S. on February 15th. According to the ICE detainee locator, Vaush is currently in the Otay Mesa detention facility in San Diego County while she awaits deportation. CNN reached out to both ICE and the Customs and Border Protection to ask why she was detained. A spokesperson from CBP told CNN affiliate KGTV that if a foreign national denied admission to the U.S. is unable to book travel back to their country of origin, he or she will be turned over to ICE. Or, in other words, if you're denied entry into the United States and you don't immediately have the ability to book travel back for some reason, maybe no reason, what does that mean? You can't book it within a day? You need to wait 6 hours? Your flight back home is from the San Diego airport? What does that mean? You are then turned over to ICE. In a statement to KGTV, an ICE spokesperson wrote that Vaush is in detention due to, quote, the violation of the terms and conditions of her admission. Lofing told CNN that her German friend was joining her in LA to tattoo her. She speculated that immigration officials might have misinterpreted Vaush's statements about the project as a declaration that she'd come to the U.S. to work. So, wait, which is it? Customs and Border Protection said that she couldn't book travel back to her country, so she was turned over to ICE. But ICE is saying the reason she was turned away to begin with was due to potentially their misinterpretation of their statement coming into customs? Maybe? They're deliberately being obtuse about the reasons? Yeah, because the reasons don't matter anymore. That's the whole point. They're just disappearing people now. I mean, she was coming to work, but not really for money. Lofing said. We have an agreement between artists. She's one of my best friends. We've been working on this tattoo project on my body for the last 5 or 6 years, and in exchange, I make clothes for her. In a phone interview with KGTV last month, Vaush said she had been kept in, quote, horrible solitary confinement for 8 days when she entered U.S. custody. This is torture for 8 days. Considered torture by the United Nations, unambiguously, everywhere in the world. Torture. Oh, sorry, you said you came here because you wanted to tattoo somebody in exchange for some clothing, but you said you were here for fun. Maybe this counts as work? I don't know. Anyway, we're putting you in a blender. I just want to get home, you know. I'm really desperate, Vaush told KGTV from Ote Mesa. I don't understand why it's taking so long to get back to Germany. Lofing said that Vaush's friends and family are hoping she'll be out of detention and on a flight back to Germany on March 11th, and that her mother bought her a plane ticket home. They aren't sure whether ICE will let her out by then, however. We sent Vaush back the information for the tickets, and she told her ICE agent, Lofing continued, saying the ICE agent had said, no, you have to get the ticket approved before you buy it. How do you think the United States' economy is going to weather every nation in the world declaring us an unsafe place to visit? The fact that it is possible that this happens reveals a unprecedented lack of oversight and caution from ICE. In a sane world, if ICE made a mistake and detained a German citizen over a mix-up on the conditions of her stay, and news got involved. News, KGTV, like attention was brought to this, ICE would be like, nope, sorry, we apologize. We were firing the person who did this. Also, we made a mistake. Also, we're a Pisces. Like it would be insane. Like they would like back off. But here, no. Attention has already been brought to this, and it doesn't matter. They're still doing it. 8 days solitary confinement. The only explanation is ICE trying to increase the number of deportations? No, I think the reason is actually scarier. I think that ICE just knows they now have infinite power. And as a consequence, they're immediately getting stupid and sloppy, which is what happens the moment you give any police force like Gestapo level power. They're just power tripping. Like, the Gestapo killed plenty of non-Jews as well. If you were like a secret policeman in Germany, it's not like you were only exercising your authority under the limited jurisdiction afforded to you by the government. You could do anything you wanted, and ICE can do whatever they want. If you're outside the United States, don't come to the United States. If you're in the United States, well, be careful. Does German media know about this? Yeah, people know about it. They did it to a German tourist visiting his American fiancée. This isn't even one of the stories that I was going to talk about. Oh, wow, also near the San Diego border. Huh. Lucas Silaf, 25, taken into custody by immigration officers near the San Diego border. Forced to spend 2 weeks in immigration detention after being arrested by border officers near San Diego. Could have been the same officers, by the way. Could have been the same ones. They accused me of living in America instead of visiting, but there was no proof I overstayed anything. Raised concerns about Silaf's foreign passport and ordered them to undergo further screening. They rip my hair tie out. They do a body check. They make me open my mouth. They fingerprint me. Tyler told the outlet, I say, is this legal? Can I have a lawyer? They say, you don't have a right to have a lawyer. You're being detained in a secure building. She said when she asked to speak to a supervisor, they shackled her to a bench for hours. They chained my ankle to a bench. Hours go by. I keep asking questions. They tell me to shut up, she explained, adding that the CBP officers were using scare tactics on Silaf. They use fear and confusion to control you. I'm a psychologist, and that's what was happening.
On Valentine's Day, Vegas resident Lennon Tyler went to Tijuana with her dog Jasper, who needed an expensive surgery. Her fiancé, Lucas Silaf, who was visiting from Germany, came along for the trip.
I think this was like our 3rd trip to Mexico. We never had any problems before.
But not this time.
The border agent sees his German passport and becomes immediately aggressive and begins asking him in a very interrogating tone, where do you live? He just says, well, we're going to Las Vegas.
She says her fiancé's answer to that question raised suspicion with officers who took the couple to secondary screening in handcuffs.
They take me over to a bench. They chain my ankle to a bench. Hours go by.
I've heard this.
You're saying you
took the couple, by the way. The couple. She's an American.
as a U.S. citizen were detained and you had your ankles shackled to the ground.
Yes, that's right.
Tyler hasn't seen her fiancé in person since the incident at the border. ICE arrested the 25-year-old and placed him inside the Otay Mesa detention center.
It was awful. You just in jail and you have to wait that you can get out and you never know when it happens.
Tyler called Team 10 after seeing our reporting on Jessica Brosha.
I have these posters we wanted to put all over the German embassy.
ICE arrested the Berlin tattoo artist after she arrived at the border in January.
That's the story we heard before. Apparently, the Vaush German woman was hurting herself after a few days in solitary confinement, and she was offered antipsychotics. Jesus Christ. Vaush said it was like a horror movie. They were screaming in all different rooms. After 9 days, she said she went so insane she started punching the walls, and then she's got blood in her knuckles. The staff of the prison had called a psychologist who wanted to prescribe antipsychotic medication to calm her down, but Vaush refused to take anything. She's still held. She's still there. Not in the solitary confinement facility, but in a different one. The German embassy has just recommended that all German citizens who are currently in the United States return home as quickly as possible. I still don't think people understand how bad things are getting and how quickly they're getting that bad. Like, well, what are they? Bro, that's from 2020? This is from 2020? No! I've fallen victim to the classic ploy. Who did that? Esmilia? You're going in the damn device. This was over COVID! Esmilia. I'm sorry. Are you sorry, Esmilia? Are you? To the oubliette. I know this was not done in bad faith. You will only spend 10 years in the box. Still Trump, though? True, that is still Trump. Actually, okay, this embarrassing from Esmilia and only Esmilia aside, what has the response been from German media? That's 2 German citizens who have been unlawfully disappeared for no reason, and one of which who was tortured. Nothing is being talked about it in our media. That's insane. Don't forget the Canadian woman. Oh, don't worry. That was also on the list. Canadian entrepreneur detained by ICE and sent to Arizona facility in chains after visa was revoked, family says. Businesswoman held in inhumane conditions over incomplete work visa as family pleads for her release. Founder of the Holy Water health drink brand. We are talking about a kind of person who you would think would literally be the last person disappeared by ICE. We'll just say, I guess, Mar-a-Lago face-coated white businesswoman who's into bullshit health grift, whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair. Like, let's be real, though. She's got MAGA face. The last person you would imagine. She was carrying an incomplete application for a new trade NAFTA work visa after her first was unexpectedly revoked, according to her mother, Alexis Eagles. What a name. Eagles said her daughter was subsequently held for 3 nights at the border before being transferred to the Otay Mesa Detention Center in San Diego for 3 more. Huh, that's interesting. It's the same border crossing for all 3 of these. It's the same border crossing in the same facility. Welcome back, Auschwitz. An online tracking system then indicated Mooney had been released only for it to emerge she'd been Okay, wait. Read it slower so you understand. An online tracking system then indicated Mooney had been released from ICE custody only for it to emerge she had been transferred to the San Luis Detention Center in Arizona. I saw this otherwise, or I saw this elsewhere. There were people worried about her. Where'd she go? Where'd she go? They weren't getting any news. The ICE tracker website said she'd been released, but they couldn't get any information from her. Later, it was found she hadn't been released, actually. She was in San Luis. They constantly moved detainees around. This is what disappearing looks like. Mooney, speaking to ABC 10's New San Diego from the latter facility, said, "Every single guard that sees me is like, 'What are you doing here? I don't understand. You're Canadian. How are you here?'" Yep, that sounds like the kind of thing that would be said by the sort of people who work at ICE detention facilities. "You're white. I don't get it." She said of her time at the Otay Mesa facility, "I was put in a cell. I had to sleep on a mat with no blanket, no pillow, with an aluminum foil wrapped over my body like a dead body for 2.5 days. 24 hours wrapped in chains. I've never in my life seen anything so inhumane." U.S. Customs and Border Protection has so far declined to say on what precise grounds Mooney was detained, citing privacy reasons. Oh, well, that's nice of them. Excuse me, why have you arrested this person? Well, we can't tell you. That'd be That's like their deal, you know? I looked up this facility. It's private. Huh. I wonder if the ICE guards down at the San Diego crossing are in cahoots with this facility and are deliberately sending people there for any reason they can find to make them money, to try to boost their numbers. Like, they should get more money, contract money from the government. British tourist too? Oh, finally! One that isn't from that one facility. British tourist in custody at Tacoma ICE Detention Center for weeks. I'm around here. Rebecca Burke, 28, is currently detained at the Northwest ICE Processing Center relating to the violation of the terms and conditions of her agreement, an ICE spokesperson said in a statement. ICE did not detail what terms and conditions she allegedly violated. Paul Burke called Rebecca's living conditions deeply concerning, saying she, a vegan, is surviving on a diet of cold rice, potatoes, and beans. ICE did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Paul Burke's Facebook post. The British Foreign Office says it's aware of a British national detained in the U.S. and is in contact with local authorities. This is still ongoing, man. This is from 2 days ago. Vaush approved diet, that's true. A German thru-hiker has been detained, deported, and banned from the U.S. without a hearing. Here's what you need to know. Thru-hiker and Trek blogger Anika Ravenclaw Ananias says the nightmare came true for her, attempted to enter the U.S. to hike the Arizona Trail last month. She was separated from her American boyfriend, shouted at and mocked by U.S. border officials, detained overnight in a cold, shared holding cell without access to medication. After 22 hours of incarceration, the hammer fell, despite having broken no laws and holding the same valid B-2 visa under which she previously hiked the PCT and CDT. She was deported back to Germany and handed a 5-year ban on re-entering the U.S. And all that in her birthday. Look, I'll get to the point of this, okay? ICE agents are Gestapo. It's not an exaggeration. They're the same type of person, okay? That's the purpose they serve is the same purpose that Gestapo served. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing. And up until this point, there have been chains on their behavior. Now there are none. ICE will continue to act with impunity. No checks, no holds. The media asks what a person did to deserve being arrested. ICE responds with, we can't tell you. They're not being reined in. The consequences behind this, the consequences to this are immeasurable. Like, we are genuinely reaching a level of national isolation that, like, we are regressing as a country in ways that I think I think it's exceeding my pessimism. To put it that way. I'm known for being a little bit deterministically pessimist about the arc of this country, and I would say that things are rapidly exceeding my estimation. For the Trump administration to just flatly admit, for the State Department, in a response to the free press, to admit that Khalil was arrested by ICE for reasons unrelated to criminality, to just flatly say enemy of the state, national security interests. All of this is being laid. These aren't accidents. This is being defended by the administration. This is all deliberate. Now, in my opinion, the way that this is being conducted is so flagrantly illegal and so unsympathetic and so unnecessary that it is attracting more negative attention to the administration than they might want. Like, it might be totally unsustainable. Like, can you imagine the social, international, geopolitical, economic, whatever consequences of what it looks like for American ICE agents to be unlawfully detaining and torturing random European citizens? Like, it's an international incident, but it's happening over and over and over again. We're less than 2 months in, and we've already done this to, at minimum, 5 people, likely quite a bit more. These are just the ones media reaches. By the way, they arrested 98 protesters who demanded the release of Mahmud. Well, that's what they said they were going to do, isn't it? Well, these are the ones who stormed Trump Tower, so it makes sense that they would be arrested. I would expect embassies to start being very hostile towards the U.S. with how blatantly evil this shit is. Look, if you are a foreigner, do not come to this country. Just don't. Don't do it. I don't care who you know is in here, okay? You have to weather that storm from a distance for a bit. I'm really sorry. Don't come over here. Do not come. Other nations need to treat us with the hostility that we deserve. We are an enemy nation. The Trump administration is an enemy to the free world. If you are a democracy, our administration considers you an enemy. Close your embassies, put out warnings, tell your citizens to not come here, revoke visas, issue travel bans, do whatever you need to. Jessica and Lucas returned to Germany on March 6th, apparently. Well, that's good to know. The tattoo artist, Vaush, the one who was held in detention for 8 days. Wait, didn't I say that? I don't know if I said that, but yeah. It's only going to get worse. The world needs to sanction America. The political project of our lives will be the complete severing of the U.S. from the world. We are a tumor. And yes, we are a tumor trying to spread. Germany issued travel warnings for trans people already. Vaush, this date is current. I checked. Hello, Ismelia. Desperately Google searching to try to win your good name back. Yes, I remember this. Germany issues warning for transgender and non-binary people traveling to the U.S. I mean, I'll say, like, and I've said this before, right? So it's not new, but we need to hunker down right now, okay? Save your money, spend on nothing unnecessary, get physically fit. The world will expect a lot from you in the coming years, okay? Especially if you already live in the United States. It's time to brace for impact. Yes.